Next one is Olivia. I want my kids to grow up entrepreneurial. How did you teach financial literacy and discipline at home while building Cardiff? All right, Olivia, great question. I think the single biggest mistake that parents make is that they try to teach their kids about money. You can't teach it in a lecture hall. You have to let them experience it. And I think at our house, we didn't do an allowance, which I know a lot of parents do. We just tend to disagree with it. I think an allowance is a handout, right? It's welfare. And it teaches your kids that money is something that you are given. So instead, my wife Anjan and I, we run a family payroll. And I'll break down kind of how it works, and you'll see if it works for you. But you create a list of jobs that go above and beyond the normal chores of being a member of the family, right? Like, I got to take the cans out to the street on trash day. That's normal. That's not above and beyond. But in any event, right? What I want you to think about is creating tasks that add real value. Organizing the garage on a weekend, washing the cars, helping the parents' business project, right? Each job has a price. And when they complete the job, right, start something and finish it, you get paid. So they learn from day one that money is not given. Instead, it's earned as an exchange for value. And then you give them 3 separate jars. You got a save jar, a spend jar, and a give jar. And I think those 3 tenets are super important. Every dollar that they earn gets split equally between the 3 jars. So they earn that money has a purpose beyond just buying things, right? They learn discipline. They learn delayed gratification. And they learn it with their own money, and they learn it early, which is really the only lesson that'll ever stick. So in my opinion, my wife's opinion, again, we're talking about financial literacy for kids, stop lecturing and just start a payroll. The next one is David. I launched a consulting business last year. I had the skills. How do I build confidence to get clients without feeling pushy? All right, David, great question. I don't think that you hate selling. You probably hate the idea that you have in your head around selling. You think it means being pushy or sleazy or, some sort of used car salesman. Listen, that's not what you are, and I can tell. So I want you to reframe your identity. You're not a consultant. You're a doctor. So a doctor doesn't go into the exam room and sell a surgery. A doctor diagnoses a problem and then prescribes a solution. So your sales calls should be structured exactly like a doctor's visit. You start by asking questions. Where does it hurt? How long has it been a problem? What have you tried so far? You listen twice as much as you talk, and you go deep into the pain. And I think by the end of your diagnosis, the problem is going to be super clear, and the client's going to be practically begging for the prescription. And then your solution, right, your consulting package, isn't a sales pitch. It's in fact a cure to their pain. So you don't need confidence to be a pushy salesman. You just need the empathy to be a great doctor. So again, my opinion is stop trying to sell and start diagnosing. Carlos's question was, I have an e-commerce store doing about 30K a month. I know it can double it, but I feel like I'm guessing with ads. Where should I focus first? More products or better systems? All right, so Carlos, I'm not going to tell you whether to focus on ads or products. I'm going to ask you 3 questions, and if you can answer them honestly, I think you'll know exactly what to do. So the first question I have for you is, do you have a product that people are already buying over and over again without you prompting them? In other words, is your customer lifetime value going up every month? I think the answer is no. Then spending more on ads is like pouring fuel on a fire that isn't even lit yet, right? You don't have an advertising problem, you have a retention problem. All right, and the second question I have for you is, if I gave you $1 million to spend on ads, would your back-end operations, shipping and customer service, inventory control system, would it collapse under the weight of the new orders? If the answer is yes, then you have no business touching your ad account. You need to build a fortress before you build an army. And lastly, the third question, right? What is the one single product that drives 80% of your profit? Not your revenue. I want you to look at bottom line profit. Now, I bet you have one. Your only job right now would be to build an entire ad strategy around that singular product, right? Master the ads for that one winner and get your cost per acquisition absolutely dialed in, because once you build this predictable machine to sell your best product, that machine will pay for the development of the rest. So in my opinion, Carlos, Stop guessing, Carlos. Answer those questions, and the data you already have is telling you exactly what to do next. So Nina says, I've been working a 9 to 5 and building my side hustle at night. My business has finally replaced my income, but now I'm scared to quit. How do you know when it's time to burn the boats? All right, so Nina, that fear that you're feeling, it's like in the pit of your stomach about quitting your job, right? Good. You should feel it, but I think you're afraid of the wrong thing. Right? You're afraid of quitting your job and failing. And you should be terrified of not quitting and guaranteeing that your side hustle always stays this proverbial side hustle forever. So let me tell you a little secret. Burning the boats isn't about the risk. I think it's about the commitment, right? So as long as you have that steady paycheck, that safe 9 to 5, you're giving yourself permission not to go all in on your business. That job is not your safety net, it's your anchor. It's the excuse you will use when you fail to make that extra sales call, when you fail to stay up at night to finish the project. You said that your business has replaced your income, and I think the data is already telling you it's time to leave. So I think your fear isn't logical, it's emotional, right? It's the fear of leaving the tribe, of walking out into the wilderness alone. You know it's time when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the fear of the unknown. You're already there. Nina, you're there. You should have already done the work. So stop standing on the edge and jump off the cliff. The next one is James. My dad was an entrepreneur. I watched his business crash in 2008, a financial crisis. I want to succeed, but I'm afraid of repeating the same mistakes. How do I build something that's recession-proof? All right, James, what you're talking about, what you're carrying is heavier than the stress of being an entrepreneur, right? You're carrying this ghost of your father's business, and that fear is real, and I don't think you should ignore it, but you need to understand something. It's really simple. You're not fighting your dad's war, right? The business landscape that crushed in 2008, it doesn't exist anymore. And he was likely running a business on leverage and fragile supply chains, and it was dependent on a single bank or even a handful of big clients, right? Client concentration, big risk. And his business was a battleship and was probably really powerful, but it was slow to turn and navigate, and it was vulnerable to this single torpedo. So I think you have the opportunity to go out and build something completely different, not in spite of the lessons learned, but as a result of the lessons learned from your dad. So a recession-proof business today isn't one that's big and strong. I would argue it's one that's small and agile, anti-fragile, nimble, right? It's a fleet of speedboats, not a battleship. So I think you build it with diversified revenue streams. You build it lean, remote, with AI that can easily scale up or down, or you build it on a massive email list and a direct relationship with your customers that you own and not ones that you rent from Meta. So I know you've got this fear, but it isn't a weakness. I would argue it's like this great strategic advantage, and it's gonna force you to build a resilient, adaptable business that your dad couldn't. In other words, James, don't run from your mistakes. Learn from your fathers and build the company that I think he would be proud of.
If this message hit home, you're done chasing hacks and you're ready to build something real. Now click here and watch my video on the $10 million blueprint. That's the exact 10 moves that I used to take Cardiff from $1 million to 10 million and beyond. Let's scale smarter. Let's go.